Welcome to the Queen Amani TV Show, all the way from the beautiful Queen City, from Charlotte, North Carolina. Today I am in the castle, and I am so blessed to be coming from me to you here in the castle, and we have so much to talk about today. You know, I've just recently gotten back to the castle because I have been traveling with my family, and I am happy to say that I've been able to experience new places. Just recently, my family and I, we went up to Canada. Yes, Canada. And it was so beautiful. I have some pictures that I actually took, and during this show, I'll be able to show you some of the pictures that I was able to take, and my family that we took, and of some of the beautiful places that we got to see and that we got to visit while we were there. So today I just want to really share my experiences with you and just kind of talk about the beautiful trip that I got to experience while in Canada. I've also actually have went some other places, and I thought, you know, it would be really neat to be able to share some of these experiences and just really talk about some of the beautiful places that I have been blessed to travel to. And there are some places that I really highly recommend because they were really just family friendly places. So, you know, and I know that a lot of my friends that watch the show have beautiful families, and I know a lot of my friends love to travel, as I have heard. So I just cannot wait to share some of these experiences, and also make sure that you share some of your experiences and some of the things that you have been doing this summer with your families, as we would love to hear at the show. So, you know, just recently we just got back, like I said, from Canada, and you see I'm loving on Mr. Rocket here. And, you know, I miss my babies actually while we were gone because they did not go with us. They had to stay home. But they got a lot of love from our pet sitter. And I will say she is the best. And she loved on our babies so much while we were gone. So we're really thankful for that, and very thankful for her. She does such an amazing job with them. And it's something because before we went and we left out for Canada, she came over to see the babies, and it's something because when they see her, they're like, okay, we know mommy's going to be going soon. So that was really neat. She came over and checked in on them, and when we left, she was here and just really took amazing care of them. And one thing that I love so much is that while I'm traveling, every now and again, she'll take random pictures of the babies and send them to me. And I tell you, it makes the trip so much easier and so much better to see that while we're traveling, having a good time, our babies are here and they are, you know, they are having a good time too, and they're well cared for. So we're very thankful that she does such a great job with our babies. So we got a chance to go to Canada, as I was saying. I traveled with my husband and my son, and we actually went up to Cape Vincent, New York, for my husband's family reunion. And this is why, you know, how we ended up in Canada. We went up to my hubby's reunion, and I got to see for the first time the area that my husband grew up in as a child, and a place that he went back to visit quite often, and a place that a lot of his family and friends live in, and they still live there. And I will say it was just a very beautiful place. We flew into Syracuse, New York. That was my first time actually flying into that airport. My son and my husband, and it was a really nice airport. A little bit smaller than Charlotte's airport, but still a really nice, you know, like homey type of airport. And so we flew into Syracuse, and we actually stayed in Syracuse for 2 nights. The first night that we got there, and then the second night. And it was really nice. One of the things that I enjoy most with Syracuse is on our way to Cape Vincent, my husband was able to stop and show us where he was born, and that was really, really nice. And so we were able to do that on the way to Cape Vincent, and there was a hospital there as you're traveling from Syracuse up to Cape Vincent, New York. And so that was really neat being able to see where he was born. And because I always tell him I was born right here in Charlotte as Presbyterian, hospital, and he hears that all the time, especially when we travel downtown. I'm like, that's where I was born, and that's actually where Nasir was born too. So that's always really neat. And for me, I went to school there at Presbyterian Hospital because a lot of you all know my mom was a nurse when I was born, and she was a nurse there at the hospital. And they have a small little private school there. I don't know if it's still there nowadays, but way back when I was born, in '83, there's a small hospital there, small school there, private school, and a lot of the doctors and nurses, children that work in the hospital went to this small, private school there, and I was blessed to go there. It was a really, really good school, and I actually share a picture of that, my class from that school that I was in then. So anyhow, so we got to see where my hubby was born, and that was really, really nice. So then we drove into Cape Vincent, and we stayed in a little cottage there in Cape Vincent, and that was like a whole new experience for me. When I seen the cottage, I really was like kind of freaking out, like, oh my gosh, I gotta stay here for the next couple days. And it wasn't because it wasn't nice, it was just cottage living, and I'm not really used to that. You all know I'm a city girl, and that was just really different. But it was so funny because my husband and my son were like thrilled that we were staying here, and it was really like nice little quaint little cottage, and you'll see the picture of it that we'll show soon. But I think for them, with my husband being an Eagle Scout and my son being a Boy Scout, they just love that kind of thing. For me, I'm like, I like the outdoors, but yeah, I just don't. I'm used to like the 5-star hotel type of thing, and so yeah, that was just really different, but it was a great experience. Like looking back on it, I'm glad that I stayed in the cottage, but I will tell you that it took me some time to really get like comfortable and just used to being in the whole cottage thing. And like I said, it was really, really nice. And it's funny because like one of my husband's family members while we were up there, he was like, you are staying in a really nice area. It's like a really nice, cottage, because there were only like 4 or 5 of them, so only so many families got to stay in them while we were up there. And I guess with the cottages where they're located is like the prime area right there in Cape Vincent where everything was taking place. So it was like a really good centrally located cottage, and it was right on the water. And so like I said, looking back, it was really beautiful, and I'm very thankful that we got to stay there. I think for the most part, it was just me getting used to something so different, and sometimes even though we want new experiences, when we're there and we're actually experiencing them, it can be just, it can take some time to get used to it. But all in all, I would say, if you're traveling somewhere that is just new and it's like a new experience, go for it. Because when you look back on it, I'm sure if you're like me, you'll be so proud of yourself that you did it, and just proud of yourself that you had that experience, and it just, in all will be a great memory for you. So, looking back on it, I'm glad that I got to experience staying in that cottage. And, boy, am I happy to be back in the castle, because, like I said, it was just totally different, totally new. It was really small, and I would say probably the entire cottage was just the size of my bedroom. So, that is so different, but it was definitely a great memory. So yeah, we stayed there in a cottage, and while there in Cape Vincent, there was the French festival. So that particular week that we went up for family reunion, they had what's called the French festival, and people from like all over come to New York for this festival. It's like a big deal. They had a parade during the French Festival, and they popped fireworks and just really had a lot of different neat things going on during the 3 days of the French Festival. And I got to learn some about my this particular area, Cape Vincent, New York, that there are a lot of French Canadian people that live in this area, wonderful people, and it's it was just a lot of like history that I learned just in those 3 days that we were there. So that was really, really neat. And while at the French Festival, they had a lot of vendors and different things selling all kinds of neat things, from artwork to food to jewelry, and you all know I love that kind of stuff. So I actually got a crystal while I was there, and I have it on now, and it's really, really beautiful. So I got it when I was in Cape Vincent there at the French Festival. And like I said, it was just really, really a neat experience, a lot of history that was learned, and just overall, just really a new, neat adventure for my family. And, you know, most of all, the great part about being in Cape Vincent was being able to meet my husband's family, a lot of them for the first time. And my son and I and my husband, we were so thrilled to be up there and just, you know, able to meet the family as a whole. And I tell you one thing, I thought that my mom's side of the family was huge. I learned that, yeah, my husband's family has my mom's side of the family probably outdone, like, because it was just huge. It was so many people. And I just didn't realize that, you know, my husband's family was that big. And it was neat to see how growing up, my husband's family, they all were from this, like, one area, mainly in Cape Vincent, that a lot of them grew up there. And it was really, really neat hearing like their different stories and different things about how they all grew up and how they come back to this area for a family reunion. It's still some family members that live there, from what I understand, but a lot of them have moved other places. But they all come back when they have family reunions there, and it's just really, really neat. So this particular area, Cape Vincent, is not far from Canada. So while we were visiting Cape Vincent, my husband said, you know, since we're so close to Canada, we're going to make a trip there. And I'm so glad that he wanted to do that because, like I said, that was my first time actually going to Canada and also my son's. And it was just a totally neat experience. It was not what I expected, I will say that, but in a good way. I just thought for some reason with Canada, when I thought about Canada, I thought about ice hockey, I thought of cold weather, I thought of, I have heard that Toronto, although I was not in Toronto, I have heard that it's a very city-like and much, like, you know, Charlotte in comparison. But I have to tell you all about the area that I was in and why I thought it was so great. I need you to hang tight. We'll be right back. We have to take a commercial, but when we come back, I'll be talking all about Canada. Welcome back to the Queen Amani TV Show. I hope you're having a great week, and I thank you for tuning in today. You know, today is such an exciting show from me to you because I am just getting back from Canada and from Cape Vincent, and I've been sharing all about my beautiful trip. So I was just talking about Canada, that while we were on our trip in Cape Vincent, that we got a chance to go over to Canada. And it was just so beautiful. So leaving Cape Vincent, there's a ferry that you take. There's actually two ferries, but we got on one ferry first, and you actually, it's a boat, and it's called a ferry, and you drive your car on the ferry, and you have the choice of either sitting in your car or getting out of your car. when you get out of your car, there's places on the boat that you can sit, and it takes you across the lake into Canada. And so we first got on the first ferry, and you'll see a couple pictures with us on that ferry. And then you get there and you get off and you drive your car off, and then you're in this other area, and then you have to get on a bigger ferry. So, and you'll see pictures of that ferry too, and it's the same concept. You basically drive your car onto the ferry, and you can either get out or you can sit in your car, and it takes you right into Canada. And then once you're there, you drive off of the ferry, and voila, you're in Canada. So that was our experience leaving Cape Vincent, New York, going into the area that we were in was called Kingston, Canada. Kingston, Canada. You know, I love that because it's like the Queen and the King, and we went to Kingston. So anyway, yeah, it was really, really neat. We were in Kingston, Canada. And so getting off of the ferry, it was right there at the water, and we stayed in a really, really nice hotel, which is right on the waterfront, and actually right out of our view, our window, you could see all the beautiful yachts parked. And of course, you know me, I was like just in my window daydreaming about this fabulous yacht that I want. And so yeah, it was really, really a nice view. And when you walk out of the hotel, this was probably the neatest thing about Canada to me. In this one area that we were in, they had a festival going on, and on literally on every block in the street, there was a different performer. And they had like performers doing all kinds of things, from magic shows to dancing to doing like gymnastics type of things, and I mean just all kinds of performers. And I thought that was the neatest thing. You know, I have a love for the arts, and I definitely love going to plays and shows and different things like that, but I had never really seen like a festival in the street that was just all about performances. And I never really would have thought that in this part of Canada that performing and arts and that type of culture was as big as it was. So that really took me by surprise. I was really, really shocked in a good way that all that good stuff was going on. And basically people were just kind of coming around, sitting in the street, eating gelato and eating and drinking and being merry and watching the different performers. And I got some footage from the different, you know, performers that I was able to see and that we were able to watch, and I'll show you those pictures and everything. But it was just really, really neat. You know, so we went and we ate at a few of the restaurants that was right there in Kingston, Canada, and the food was delicious. You know, I'm a bit of a foodie and I just love good food. That's like one of my favorite things. There is nothing like good food. I'm just telling you. And when you go somewhere that is just a new experience, new environment, and the food is good, it is just the best. So there was one restaurant that we went to, or the first one that we went to, and they had some delicious seafood, and I'll show you the pictures. And the food was so good. You know, you're not a foodie if you don't take pictures of your food. Yeah. So if you are like me, or I'm like you, and you love good food, you know, there's those times where you just have to snap a picture of it before you can just dive in and eat it. Yeah, and so I have those moments, and I took some pictures of the food. I ordered, I think it was shrimp and corn, and there was this sweet corn that had like cheese and just seasoning all over it. And actually it was the first time that I've ever had corn this way, and it was delicious. It was so good. It was so good. So yes, that was the first restaurant, and we ate at a couple other restaurants while we were there. I don't remember the names right off of the top of my head, but you will see pictures of them. And if you go to the Queen Amani TV Show Facebook page, I will put in the link the name of the restaurant and the name of the area that we stayed in. That way, when you visit Canada and when you visit this area, Kingston, Canada, if you would like to try out the restaurants that we visited, you will have that information. But I can tell you the food was just delicious. The performers were just amazing. And in this particular area, it was very historical. Like just the buildings were, you can tell, have been there for years, and that there was a lot of history in the way that some of the buildings were structured and how they were built, and I got to take a lot of pictures of those things because I just love history and I love learning about, you know, different areas. And from what I understood, Kingston, Canada is it's an older area of Canada, wherein Toronto is more new and it's more city-like. And I have not been to Toronto yet. I do plan on visiting at some point, but I will say I would love to go back to Kingston, Canada, just because it was just a very, very beautiful place. And one of the things I like too is that in the area that we stayed in, it was on the waterfront, on the water, right there in Kingston. You can leave the hotels and just get out and just shop around. There are a lot of really neat shops. There are a lot of great restaurants in this area. It reminded me of here in the Queen City, there's an area that we have called Noda. And it really reminded me, it was like a big Noda, but with more history and just more, like, I would say more old school. Maybe a little bit more character to it just because it was like a lot older. But it really reminded me of Noda, where you just park your car, you get out, and you just walk, and you could just stay there all day and just have just this huge adventure just right in this one area. So it was really, really nice. That's actually what we did. When we got to the hotel, we, you know, left the hotel and we just walked around, and I got to go to a lot of boutique shops, and of course, you know, I like that. Boutiques, you can find some of the nicest, neatest things, and I got to get 2 custom made aprons, cooking aprons. Can you believe that? Yes, cooking aprons, because one of my goals is to start cooking more and cooking some neat dishes here at home. So I got 2 custom made aprons in Canada, which were really neat. And I took pictures of that boutique, you'll see. And then, you know, we have a gamer. Nasir loves the video games. So they had this really neat little shop there, right there in Kingston, Canada, that has all kinds of games and videos and movies. So we had to walk down there for him. And also there was this other neat little store. It had a lot of people were there playing like board games. I seen they were playing chess, and then there was this other game. We couldn't quite really understand what the name of that game was all about, but kind of reminded me of like when my son used to be into Pokemon, not Pokemon Go that everyone's playing on their phones right now. But when you know, when Pokemon came out and it was with the flashcards, the actual cards, and then there was a game with it where you would play with the cards. It just looking at them playing, it seemed like it was something very similar to that. But it was just groups of people in this one store playing games, and they had just really the neatest things. So while we were there, Nasir picked out a few things, and I got to get a few things there that were just really neat little things to have from Canada. And you'll see the pictures of that one store. I can't pronounce the name of the store, but you'll see the name of it. Maybe you can pronounce it, but it was just really, really a neat store. So then we walked around, and of course we had to go to one of the places where you exchange currency, because of course in Canada the currency is different. And I love their currency because one of my favorite queens is on their money. And you know who that is because if you've been following the Queen Amani TV show, I've spoke of her before. And we have pictures of her on our Instagram page. And if you haven't checked out our Instagram page, make sure you go there at the Queen TV Show page on Instagram. There you can see some pictures, some of the pictures that we have on the show and other pictures that sometimes we take that are not on the show. So make sure you like our Instagram page and also our Facebook page. Especially for giveaways. We're going to have giveaways coming up soon, and you don't want to miss out on those. In order to be in the giveaways for the Queen Amani TV show, you have to like those pages, so make sure you go over there and like those. But one of my favorite queens is Queen Elizabeth, and I love the fact that she's on the some of the Canadian currency. She's just a fabulous queen, and actually that name is very prominent in my family because my great-great-grandmother her name was Queen Elizabeth, actually Queen Elizabeth, and she loved, from what I understood, being called Elizabeth. She didn't necessarily like to be called Queen, and I don't know why, because I love being called Queen, but her name was Queen Elizabeth, and you know, and so I love that name. I have a few cousins that have kept that name alive in our family that's named Elizabeth, but I love the fact that Queen Elizabeth is on the Canadian currency, and while we were there exchanging our currency there, I heard people saying, you know, she's our queen. You know, Queen Elizabeth, she is our queen. So, you know, it was just so neat. And like I said, I cannot wait to travel back to Kingston, Canada, and also to Cape Vincent, New York. It's very, very beautiful, and we were just so blessed to have had that experience as a family and just have been there. So I hope that you enjoyed the show today, and if you get the opportunity to go up to Canada, make sure you travel to Kingston, Canada, and also Cape Vincent, New York. It was a beautiful place. Thank you for tuning in today to the Queen Amani TV show. We love you here.